Do you ever get confused about Google Ads, paid search, SEO, all the other digital marketing terms that are thrown out? If you're a business owner and you've talked to anybody in advertising, I'm sure you've heard it all, and I'm sure you're sick of hearing of it. We're just going to go over the topics and try to clarify what all these different things mean, and hopefully you learn something from it.
Jeff, welcome to our studio here, Why Not Results. We've been talking about it for
months,
at least.
Yeah.
I've been talking about it with Lynn for years. So I, you and I just got to know each other recently, but obviously I've known your brother Lynn for a long time, since restaurant days in Florence, and then since then it's been interesting how he was talking a lot more with Jimmy, and then Jimmy got to know you a lot more, so I kept hearing about this name, Jeff, and then we met each other, and it's kind of interesting how long it took us to actually ever really kind of hang out.
Right.
I mean, the whole fusion, what was it? No, Invigorate. The whole Invigorate thing, how long has that been going on? That's been, a year?
Oh, yeah, probably about a year.
At least a year.
Yeah.
I'd say the first 6 months of that, I had who's Jeff? Then I briefly got introduced, and then we've had a couple drinks, but outside of that, we really haven't gotten to know each other that well.
No, not a whole lot. I think we did meet once or twice hanging out over when you were coming in and out for the football games, stopping in at the...
Yeah, brief.
Yeah.
It was all just kind of short little, hey, how you doing? Nice to meet you.
Yep.
So I think you came to my 50th birthday. Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
Got to know each other there, and then...
I decided not to judge you based on Jimmy, so...
That's to you, buddy. And then last week we kind of went out in town and tore it up, and I think I'm finally feeling okay, but I'm happy to have you in here to talk some business.
Sounds good.
So I'm really excited. I'm really, really excited to have this conversation. I've been wanting to tee this up. To a fault, I'm very inquisitive, right? Instead of just letting people do their stuff and they just say, yeah, well, they're going to perform this for you. I like to understand, right? I just like to understand. I'm not necessarily want to be the technician or do the stuff, but I just like to understand how the cake is made.
Yeah.
Right? I don't want to just eat the cake. I really like to understand. It's my Martin side. It's my, it's that.
Yes, you got it. The detail. You got to get down in the weeds, for lack of better
words, man. I like the weeds. I do. So, having Why Not Results, which it stemmed from just me needing video. I started off in the restaurant bar business. So I've always liked to build businesses. That's been fun for me. But then after getting out of that terrible type of lifestyle business, transitioning into health insurance and life insurance for just more or less a day job,
right,
is why I did that. Well, then that's why I started finding out the intricacies of insurance and how little of the business owners know about insurance. So they're buying out of confusion and out of fear versus knowledge. And so that's when I was like, I want to start making videos to educate people. And so that kind of started my hand in the digital marketing world.
Right.
That's kind of where it began for me. It's like, okay, great. I have this video. Well, what am I supposed to do with it? Right?
It's a very nice video. What do I do with it?
What do I do with it? Where does it go? And then all of a sudden I start finding out about all these little things that are out there that I had no idea that it took so much in the digital marketing spectrum. And then from there, because of the studio, I've been fortunate enough to meet a lot of niche pros. Arguably, you'd be one of those pros that I run into. The studio brought us credibility to the table, which helped bring some clients that we've worked together with. But by and large, it's been really intriguing. I love it, but it's very confusing.
Yeah, there's so many different parts to it. Just having a video or having a website or anything like that is kind of like the internet. That's like the largest office building in the world. Good luck finding it if you don't give somebody the right directions on how to get there. And that's basically all that digital advertising is showing people how to get to your storefront, whatever that storefront may be.
Right. And if you do it, and it's kind of interesting in the beginning, that whole storefront, and that's a very good way. That's how I first heard about it. So people are finding that organically, just falling into it.
Right.
Right. Or are you paying the bus driver to drop people off in front of your store?
Right. Are you putting out a sign out up front, or are you just waiting for somebody to walk in the door?
Right. Totally.
Yeah.
So it's been interesting to learn the difference between SEO, the search engine optimization, versus paid traffic. And paid ads, right? And so that's your world.
And organic social and all the other things that roll into it slowly and make it difficult.
And would you say it's pretty safe to say that most business owners really don't understand Google, Bing, they don't really understand that there's these different search engines, right? And they don't understand that there's a different, their DuckDuckGo is different. Just because you do some things pertaining to Google doesn't mean it's going to be the right thing for Bing,
right?
DuckDuckGo or whatever.
And just so many different layers. I mean, like Yahoo and several of the others are powered by Bing. Several of them are powered by Google, and they consider them their search partners. So by advertising on one, you're advertising on multiples if you choose to, or accidentally, because they try to force you to advertise everywhere, even if you don't want to. So, it's all those little things that nobody really notices that they're doing or not doing because there's 8,000 buttons to push.
Right. So it's just crazy. And before we get going too far, let's start by introducing Jeff Melcher from Frugal.
Hi.
So just explain a little bit about how Frugal, where you came from, what's your background, how did you get involved in digital marketing, what pushed you down this path? I told you my path.
Got into it, it's probably 12 years ago now or so. It would be working with Google. Came on as a partner as a Google advertising specialist. So came on, had to get certified in all 7 of different Google's little areas. And then we became one of those annoying experts that you would call in or would call you or was help agencies oversee it. And the department that I worked in was agency specialist. So it wasn't just helping mom and pop trying to start up a business. I was actually, if an agency got stuck, an agency would call in and we would have to direct the agency. So we had to know everything well enough to know it better than the agency. Because one of the things that we always joke about is, do you know what makes somebody an expert in any field?
I thought it was 10,000 hours.
No, if they know this much more than you.
Oh, okay.
If they know that much more than you do, you believe they're an expert, whether they are or not. And that's why you wanting to get into the weeds is a good thing, because you learn enough that somebody that knows this much more than you doesn't know that much more than you anymore, because all they need to know is 2 or 3, 4 buzzwords. They sound like they know so much more than you. You're impressed and you think they know everything, and they really, really don't know much of anything. And that's where I got into starting with the Google aspect of it, was because agencies would call in, and obviously the agencies know this much more than all of the mom and pop shops that are calling in, and then they're coming out. When they get stuck, they would have to reach out to us. So we had to have an extra level. And that's how I got started. Then from there, we branched out, opened up our own business, and we've been running actually digital agency support ever since then. So just so you know, we don't call it Frugal because we started with that and we got an infringement. So
did you?
Yes. So we had to pull off it. We still like it, and we will reference it as Frugal at times.
Okay, good.
But we can't be Frugal.
You can't be Frugal.
You know,
I was wondering
we are
how you guys,
Frugal.
I wonder how you got it. Maybe you should just name it Frugal, like Frugal.
That might work too. But there was a lady
Frugal
out.
Paid ads. You do it on the Frugal budget for guys like me. You're like, oh, come on, I don't really.
That's why we liked the other version, because it was, ads on the cheap, but it was also tied in with Google. But
because you're spelling it Frugle.
And Google was fine with it. They had dropped it. They used to have a platform called Frugal that was kind of like a shopping type of thing, but they dropped it, and some PR firm in Florida picked it up. Is what it was.
They're the ones.
She's the one that reached out to us, yes, and told us we had to stop using it. So we're no longer Frugal. We're digital agency support.
Oh, so that way I thought that was just what you did. That's your name.
That is our name, and that is what we do. We almost only same exact aspect as we took out of Google is we are the experts for other agencies. So if an agency comes in and they're an SEO or a graphic designer or video, and they don't know how to do paid ads, they come to us. So we are a digital agency support for other digital agencies, basically.
So would you say paid ads, that's your bread and butter? That's what you guys primarily
Majority,
do?
yeah, paid ads.
And is that paid ads specifically for Google? Is that paid ads for Bing? Is that paid ads for YouTube? Where do you hang your hat?
Google is our bread and butter. That's what we do primarily, but we do almost all of the others. I ran ads on Google, Bing, Yahoo, TikTok, Facebook. We are pretty big into Facebook as well. So all the different platforms that run through there, there's remarketing platforms like AdRoll and Criteo and other things like that. So there's a lot of platforms out there, and that's what a lot of the frontline businesses don't understand, that they think paid ads is Google, and it is, but there's a lot of other type of ads like when you think of Google, you think of search, but there's also the display and the video and email and everywhere else in the world that Google may get their fingers into, which is everywhere.
Yeah, we just think of Google as Google.
That's search.
Right, and they're really everywhere. They're entrenched everywhere, aren't they?
Yes.
They're selling services to everybody, not just pilfering our consumer data.
Right.
They're passing that on to anybody and everybody who will buy it, aren't they?
Well, they have the 2 largest search engines in the world. The search engine largest is Google. The second largest is Yahoo. And Google owns both of them.
Google owns Yahoo?
Yeah. They bought it they got the 1 and 2 largest search engines in the world.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I had no idea.
So
I thought you were going to say YouTube. I thought you were going to say Google and YouTube.
didn't I say YouTube? What did I say?
Yahoo?
You had it. It's YouTube.
YouTube.
Yes, I said Yahoo.
Yeah.
No, Yahoo's partnered with Bing.
That's what I thought. I was
Bing,
going to say.
it goes the other way. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Yes,
okay,
thanks
all
for
right.
calling me out on that.
All
I
right.
don't want you guys to get that wrong because I did.
That's a big one. Okay. Yes. Okay.
Yeah, the 2 largest search engines is YouTube is the second largest.
Right. And that's still growing, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, video. I mean, everything's coming to video right now.
I think even the older people now are getting more into going to YouTube to solve a problem. How to video on this? How do I fix this, that?
I don't know how to do anything, but I can fix anything. All I need to do is Google it, and they know this much more than me. So I'm listening to the experts while I'm fixing my washer.
I'm going to use that. I'm going to listen to the experts. That's pretty good. So, starting off on this, what this whole meeting was supposed to be really is for us to line up a podcast based on this very thing. So through this conversation, what I'm hoping we can do is kind of touch base on some of the high-level bullet points that might make sense for us to talk about in future podcasts.
Okay.
Right? And do segments. And I'd really like to deep dive on each segment in different areas that make sense. So hopefully through today, and I want you, so as you come across something like, that's one, I want you to point that out so I make sure I write it down. So I've already written down paid ads.
Okay.
Right? And then through our conversation, just do me a favor and make sure that's a whole different wedge that we're going to talk about.
Well, and I can say paid ads, that's too broad.
Okay. So
Because that's, like we said, there's display. Each one of them takes their own. There's the display, there's search, there's Facebook.
Display. You said search.
Yeah, and display is just if you're on a website and you see an ad over here, that's a display ad. If you're on a website and you see
right?
an ad, what's that?
Those are cheaper.
Yeah, they're cheaper than search
Less
because they're
targeted.
not search is a direct. I want red shoes, So that's somebody taking action to get what they want. The other one's passive. It's more like a TV ad. It's just some are motion, some are static, but yeah, that's the display.
Is display, would that be considered in the realm of media buying?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Google does media selling as well.
So when people say, hey, I'm in media, I handle media buying and all that stuff, they're referring to display ads, or is that just one
that's Google
component?
display ads, but there's, like I said, there's a lot of programmatic people out there that do. There's several different platforms.
So you tell me on Bing they call it something different than a display ad, or is it still a display ad on Bing?
Display ad. It's still a display ad, but when you get off of those major platforms, they typically call it programmatic, but it's basically the same thing.
Programmatic.
Yes.
Okay. Programmatic. Okay. And so these search ads, like when because I've been hit up by, what is it, Roku? Yeah, Roku, right? I've been hit up with a lot of these different services.
Never done Roku. I believe that would probably be directly through the provider like Roku. Mm-hmm. And of course, Google and Bing and stuff like that will buy all of these different ad spots because Roku themselves probably can't sell it. They'll make more money if they sell it themselves. Mm-hmm. But if they can't fill their spots, they'll have Google do it. So in the Google display network, you might be able to show up on Roku or here or there.
Well, the Roku thing was more of create your own channel.
Oh, okay.
Right? And so I'm contemplating, right? So they hit me up because of the video studio. So I've always contemplating, for $300 a month or something like that, I can have my own channel, my Why Not Results channel. I can put whatever I want on that channel. If I want to run Westerns, I can run Westerns. If I just want to run podcasts, whatever I want, I build a channel to then push that channel out there just like you would any channel. So we could create our own channel.
And where does it show? Just on Roku?
Any
on
Roku device.
Any Roku device.
It's searchable. So as people look, I want to go watch digital marketing stuff. We could pop up, right? So that's one of the things. It's real big.
I've always wanted to be a movie star.
Well, you're this much closer.
I know.
I know.
I've got a perfect face for radio, right?
Right. Perfect place for radio. You witty bastard. But yeah, it's been interesting. And even talking to the Roku guys who are talking about running also ads within their little, now anymore like Hulu and,
Right.
and all of a sudden they pop an ad
That's
out.
what I thought you were talking about with showing up in Roku, because Google gets in weird places like that you don't expect.
Through some things and some conversations I've had, that was also part of it, right? Like, okay, you could also, hey, you can have your own channel, but then we can also place you, right? I've run into so many different weird paid ad concepts.
They're talking about like podcasts. So for a podcast, you may have a host read special, because that's some of the advertising. I have done podcast advertising before as well through paid ads. And that's why I said that was too broad, because podcasts are one of the other places that you can do paid ads. But like a host read spot, is that what Roku was talking about? Is that they will place somebody with you and you'll be like, hey, I love Whammo.
There's been that. It's amazing to me the angles that people have found, right? To promote, to sell, right? To help get you more viewers. It's mind-boggling, right? And that, to me, I think for the average business owner, that's me. I'm just the average business guy. I'm just out there. I'm a builder. I'm that true entrepreneur. Like everything I can see, like, ooh, that's shiny. Let's go. I can go, And, that's why Lynn and I get along so well.
Right.
Right. I mean, just kind of really can kind of see like an opportunity in almost everything. And it's really, I've had to really and maybe you're that way too, as we get to know each other. Maybe you're that way just like he is, and maybe more. Maybe you're the guy who's that way.
We both are, but now that I think he's the same way, but now that we've gotten a bit older, much better at focusing and not, ooh, shiny.
Yeah.
Like you said.
Yeah,
and
me too.
And realizing that you have to give everything to whatever you've done to get it over that next line before you shiny off to the next thing. And squirrel.
Oh man, I'm king of squirrel.
Still?
I'm not as bad as I was, definitely. But I mean, I'm
because you're old and you don't have as much energy.
Yeah, and I value time. Obviously, the older you get, the more I value time, and realize that I don't have time for everything.
Right.
So I'm even in the digital marketing world, even with Why Not Results, I'm very cognizant about what I'm trying to build. And I've been down some paths with Jimmy, and I'm like, nah, we're not going to do that. This is going to create a nightmare. I did that in the restaurant business in a small little town, Florence, Arizona, and it was great. It was successful. We built up a great booming business, but we also built up a nightmare to service, right? So to continue, it's great to have all these clients, but those clients need fulfillment. You have to service them properly, or all of a sudden upset, and there goes your reputation. And I'm sure you guys value your reputation.
Yeah,
I do too, big time. So I mean, I want to go above and beyond always. And so if you have that kind of mindset, and you all of a sudden you went from 10 to 1,000 clients, well, now all of a sudden, what kind of life do you have? Right. And I want to go.
And what kind of life do they have? Because there's no way you can go from 10 to 1,000 and service them all appropriately.
Totally. So now I'm really liking the fact of just using Why Not Results more for more business partners like yourself. Like, hey, I've got this resource. How can you guys take advantage of the resource I have? Right? You guys have your resource. How can we work together? Where I scratch your back, you scratch my back, and then let's build together and find the right ideal clients. So now I'm the model is not let's bring on as many video clients as we can. That's no longer the model. It's just build something at scale and take on anybody and everybody who needs video. And so now it's really let's find the right people who need video, and then let's also partner them up with the right people who can help them amplify their video and amplify whatever their true objective is. If it's just awareness for their cause or whatever else to ultimately sell a widget, great. Or if it's just there's so many different ways that people are making money online. It's insane.
Right.
These social platforms just getting paid. I mean, we had a client who's making $400,000 a month off of YouTube videos.
That's not bad. I wouldn't mind that.
His low month was $250.
What kind of videos is he doing?
They were doing family videos.
Really?
Yep, they're videoing their family. True story. And just crushing it. And they weren't selling anything. The only thing they were selling...
They were just monetizing the channel itself.
That's right.
So Google was selling ads and making money 100%. And paying them for all the views that they got.
That's right. They didn't have to do anything but just make content because they were smart about channeling their content drive push towards a certain demographic. Subscribe.
Yep.
You basically had 5 million subscribers.
Well, and it's not just a matter of being smart. I mean, things have to align. I mean,
totally.
Being an influencer, a $400,000 a month person. I mean, that's what every 22-year-old in the world wants right now. They're trying to become influencers. And one, you have to have the discipline to have an idea, stick with the idea, and keep plugging through it, no matter whether you're making money or not, because I'm guessing those people weren't making $400,000 a month when they started out.
Actually, it's a great story. I think he was actually doing solar panel sales, knocking on doors, if I'm not mistaken. He was doing something like that. It was some standard door knocking, terrible type of deal, barely scraping by, and started making a couple videos when his wife did, and they kind of made a couple more, and they started getting some traction, made a couple more. And it just kind of stuck. They realized, I think they got their first check and realized, like, oh, we got paid off this?
Well, I mean, not everybody is personable. They're not going to be caught on camera. They're not going to come across right, whatever it is. It's not about anything other than, did you catch people's attention? You know, it could be for one of a million different reasons, but some people catch it, some people don't, and it's kind of the luck of the draw whether or not you get that. And I don't think everybody that wants to do it thinks they have it, and some do and some don't. Same as with anything else.
And the big fallacy that it's easy money, right? They are always making content.
Oh, yeah.
They're always having to think about what is the next episode we're doing. It never shuts off.
If you're making $450,000 a month, that's easy money. Nobody works that hard.
And working with their family.
Right.
Right? I mean, they're just spending time with their family and capturing it. But they were still having the point. But even still, it's still, even it after you do it for so long, it still becomes a grind.
No, it's work.
Yeah.
But all I meant was, if you're making $500,000 a month, you're not working that hard. I can promise you that, because I've worked hard in my life and
Totally. Oh, agreed.
made a lot less than that.
Right. Yeah. No. But again, it's just so interesting, the different areas and different ways that people are making money. You know, and I've told all my friends, and what I've realized, and I'm getting close to the point where I'm ready to start spending money towards paid ads. I'm kind of guilty. I have a foolish business model, especially if you were to talk to any modern day digital marketer, where I spend money after I'm ready to service the client versus spend the money to bring the clients and then deal with the service issues. I spend a lot of time getting my kinks worked out, so that way when the client comes, I typically keep the client happy, which is kind of foolish. So I've invested a bunch of money into infrastructure, processes, software to facilitate when we do blow up, right? Instead of spending a lot of money on the advertising to bring in the dollars and then put out the fires and put in that infrastructure and then be way up ahead on money. It's just the way my philosophical business mind works. So it's held me back in a lot of ways, but it's also built long relationships also.
Well, and if you talk to any advertising person in the world, they would probably hate me for telling you this, but honestly, the best advertising you can ever get from anywhere is word of mouth. It's free. Nobody's going to trust anybody on the internet like they will somebody who tells them. So word of mouth is always going to be the best. And so building it from that direction to start with is great. Let's see if you can keep it. If you get so busy then that's where it starts to become difficult when you're scaling. Can you keep the same level of customer service? And that's where a lot of large businesses start to fail while they succeed, in my opinion.
I think you're spot on. And I've definitely recognized that. And so I've learned that I only want to be so service oriented in the sense where I only want so many clients. Like I really don't want many clients anymore. Handful of the right clients. And then I want to just use the internal marketing department that we've built out in business for our own widgets. I want to service myself, right? That sounds kind of bad.
Yeah.
For lack of better words, I really like servicing myself.
There you go.
But it's true. I mean, so anymore, I tell all my friends, hey, you want to know how well I'm doing? Ask me how much I'm spending on ads. Right?
Right.
That's the reality. I know when I'm spending $100,000 a month on ads, I know I'm bringing in $1 million a month. Right?
Because why would you keep scaling up your ads if you're not making any money?
So I think that's a very indicative, correlation there, right? I think that really, and I know that we aren't growing this big business because quite honestly, I didn't find the right widget that I really wanted to spend that kind of money with. Well, now I found that widget, I've put the infrastructure around, I'm getting pretty close to that point where I want to drop some big money on ads.
Right.
I found something I think is going to be still great quality of life. and I'm not going to have to do as much service and fulfillment work. And I'll tell you what, it's not in digital marketing.
It's not?
No, it is not. No, it's not. So that's been one big realization. But I will say that I like the digital marketing. I like the puzzle.
It is I've said that forever, that they can all work, but it is a big puzzle because
I love it.
You can have the best ads in the world. If the website's horrible, it doesn't matter.
It doesn't convert.
Yeah.
Right?
If you have the best website in the world and the best ads, but your website is slow, it's not going to work. So there's so many different pieces. If your product is horrible, it's not going to work. So it is a puzzle that can't be solved online alone, but it's always a puzzle. It's like any business. How do you fit it together?
And if you can outpace your fails,
right?
Right. And this is where I think, I'm very envious of those people who have the e-commerce businesses who are just selling product, right? Because they're not doing any fulfillment. These guys out. I mean, I've really
the drop shippers.
Yep. I really kicked myself for not focusing the same amount of energy in that arena, right? So that way I was just focused on getting in front of clients, selling a widget, pay Amazon their cut, forget about it. Oh, you don't like it? Send it back. Okay. Next guy.
Yeah.
Right. I'm not having to field, how-tos and service work ongoing. Now I'm in the financial services space and I've aligned myself with a lot of financial professionals. So the arena I'm going down in the long term will be in that arena. I like that. I like that financial space. It's good. But again, I'm not trying to be the client-facing person. I'm recognizing that I want to use my skill set to be more in the lead gen space.
Gotcha.
And feed vetted leads, because now I understand, okay, now I know how to get in front of the right people. I understand the word conversion. I understand about how do we vet these people down, right?
So are you wanting to do this within your own business or just lead gen in general for the industry? What are your thoughts on that?
I'm trying to lead gen for a specific group of people that I will vet and work with, right? I'm not doing it for the industry at large where anybody can come one, come all. It's through a vetted group of clientele that guys I know are honest and that can also close deals and actually, first and foremost, take care of the client. In the financial services space, I found that people are very happy to do, commission splits and pay for marketing if you're willing to wait to get paid until they get paid. Right. And there's a lot of money out there that a lot of people that are underserved or they have bad financial advisors. They just get bad advice.
Right.
And so, again, what I like about having the video studio, that's part of the reason, again, I built it out because it's a complex product. It takes a lot of different educational points. So I like education. If I could have made good money in education, I might have considered education because I really enjoy teaching people, right? I enjoy building that thought process, and I like learning. It's the Martin in me. That's my nerdy side. I love it.
But it's very limited on income. But you do get the good time off.
Get the good time off, and not only is it limited on income, but I also have a hard time with the structure of it. Right, you're very tied down. Well, if you're a teacher, you've got to be at certain places. Oh, you
mean the 9 to 5?
Yes.
Yeah. Oh,
absolutely. Yeah. I want to. I'm not trapping myself.
So you traded the 9 to 5 for a 9 to 7.
So I work 2 hours a day, whether I need to or not. No, I don't. It's again. Now that I'm empty nester, I find myself working a lot again. Like here we are shooting a podcast at what time is it? 6 o'clock. And so because I enjoy working. But while I had kids at home, I very much enjoyed being very flexible. I had my evenings available for them. I could attend all the, volunteer stuff within, dad's club type of stuff and going on all the father-daughter trips. And so I was hyper focused on being engaged with my kids, and which was great, right? So that's the side of the digital world and also the financial services world where I can do things from anywhere.
Well, and I like the flexibility, but I also don't like the fact that I'll be sitting there at midnight working, because I can. And there's stuff I need to get done. And I was flexible earlier in the day or yesterday or for 2 days, or I had a rough Tuesday and had to take a day off.
I don't know what you're
Something
talking
like
about.
That.
I have no idea what he's talking about, this guy. Yeah. That was all him, by the way.
Yeah, it was all me.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah. I think it was actually all Lynn.
Yes.
And we had to put him to bed.
somehow it was his fault. He's here. We can blame. Not here.
He was the one who called. So, and he
Yes.
isn't here, so we can blame him.
Exactly.
He's not here to defend himself, so
Right.
then we blame you. Yes. So one of the things that I was really excited about when I reached out to Lynn to really start understanding, I've realized that, okay, great. I can finally make high caliber videos. And I'm understanding, and I'm at the strategy phase of improving my strategy in almost every part of the marketing spectrum. Not every part, but I'd say probably 60%, right? And then the other, I'd say, 20% I'm not touching, and there's another 20% that I have no idea about, that I haven't even heard about, right? That I'm just, I don't know anything about geofencing. I don't know anything about these, all these different crazy things that they do out there. But the one big thing is that I've yet to get to in my business, and even in the marketing side, agency side, that I know once I do and I hone this in is when I can show proven results. And the only way you can show proven results is through analytics, right? And the analytical side, the tracking of data, and understanding of that data is where I've really huge fail on my end, right? My lack of focusing on getting that, not only capturing that data, but also learning how to utilize that data is something I'm really looking forward to understanding with you guys, right? And and specifically pertaining to the Google world and other things that you're familiar with. But I'm really, really excited because, again, my intention is to spend a lot of money in ads.
You're going to lose your excitement. I absolutely hate the attribution and the tracking. It is necessary and it works, but I can promise you that it's never going to be right. They have a thing in Google, in advertising called attribution. And if you're doing omni-channel type advertising, meaning that if you advertise in more than just a single platform, whether it's online or offline, good luck figuring out who drove your business. If you're doing online purchases or offline purchases.
But isn't that kind of why you have different landing pages for that reason and different choke points?
Doesn't matter. I can tell you if Facebook has ever shown an ad and Google shows an ad and TikTok shows an ad and that person converts, I can promise you every single one of those platforms are going to take credit for it.
So are you saying that analytics are worthless?
Nope, not at all. It's a trend. It's not going to be exact, and you're going to want it to be exact. I can tell, but it's not. It gives you a path, and it will. They are making it better, but Google likes to take credit for as much as it can. It's their business model. So analytics will give you a larger weight towards Google.
Okay.
Facebook will give you a larger weight towards Facebook. Everybody's going to try to take credit for it. I'm not saying that reporting doesn't work, because reporting definitely works. I've tried to change my reporting to be more of a cost per acquisition blended across all models. And that's getting a little bit more into the weeds than I think we wanted to.
Again.
Cost per acquisition or sale. So how much it costs for every sale that you have.
Okay.
But I also want it to be blended across all platforms. So needless to say, if I spend $1,000 on 3 different platforms, or including billboards or whatever, offline, online, whatever it is, how much money did I spend?
Total.
How much total did I sell?
Okay.
As a total. That's not something you really get in analytics or any of the platforms. The best I've found, like right now for e-commerce, is you take the total out of Shopify or whatever e-commerce platform you're working on, and you take your total ad spend, and that's how you figure out the blended. And again, reporting is not an exact science, and it'll
I've heard
give
that.
you.
I've heard
But
that.
it is.
But that's got to be a better benchmark, right?
Oh, it's much better than just closing your eyes and guessing.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So again, the A/B testing, things of that nature.
Yes.
Right. So again, I realize, and I've heard that from everybody, but I do look forward to understanding at a high level pay attention to this, don't pay attention to that. Right. Or take this with a bigger grain of salt than that, but take everything with some grain of salt.
Right.
Because I've heard that from everybody.
They call them vanity metrics. Everybody's going for the ROAS or this, return on ad spend by ROAS. And do they matter? Yes. But there is no end all be all. There's a blend of all the different metrics that matter to whether or not it's working. But the bottom line is, how much did you spend? How much did you make? As far as some of the topics I would like to talk, I'm going to completely sidetrack because this attribution is a whole weed level conversation that I don't know if we want to get into right now.
Well, I mean, again, what I'm hoping to gain out of this conversation is kind of more or less these bullet points,
Right.
So that we can deep dive on whether it's attribution. I'm trying to figure out what can be a particular show in itself.
Well,
What should be a 20-minute conversation, 20 to 45-minute conversation.
What I was going to say from a business owner standpoint, which is what I think that you're trying to drive toward, is I would think that we would want to start out at a very high level. They want to know how to advertise. They don't know anything about the market. Like you were saying, little snips and pieces. So try to get them an overview of what SEO is, what paid search is, what social paid advertising is versus social organic advertising.
Yeah.
Since they're different, how all the different pieces fit together. You really want to have a good email marketing system. So how all of them fit together and give them a high level overview, what might be a good, very starting point and what each different piece is used for. Like what's Facebook used for? What's Google search used for? What's SEO and how does it work?
Well, and how does social tie into Google, right? I think that's a big question I have too. Right? I mean, how is social, what you're doing socially, going to influence any of your ranking from an SEO standpoint? Does it? Some argue. I've heard it sometimes it does, and I've heard sometimes it doesn't. So I'm hearing different things, right? So is it really helping push? Is it giving you that? What is it? That PA, whatever the authority thing? Is it helping, making you more relevant out there in Google's eyes?
It definitely helps from the SEO side, and I'm not a huge SEO myself. I'm not an expert. I know enough I know this much more than the average person. Yeah. So on the SEO side, there's a lot of different things that requires the authority, the backlinking from reputable sources. So all those different things feed into it. And if you get enough people coming to you from some of those reputable sites, that helps to increase your authority in Google in their eyes for the SEO portion of it.
Yeah. What about Google Maps, right? Do you deal with Google Maps?
Google Maps, they have paid ads within Google Maps. That's part of the Google ecosystem.
So I think we need to put that in there. Google Maps is its own separate animal.
Yep.
Right? I mean, that's a big time. And then I know you guys, Lynn was telling me something about
Google My Business.
Oh, Google My Business. There you go.
There's Google My Business. It depends on what kind of business is. There's local service ads.
Was that Google My Business, local services?
No, they're different.
That was okay.
Local service has, if you're a plumber, an attorney, anything like that, Google, you have the ability to set up a Google service ads profile. You get qualified and run through there, and that's really great for service industry.
So what did you call
Google
local services?
Local service ads.
Local service ads. So you can see the confusion.
Yes,
it's crazy, and
trust me, we get confused partially because Google changes the names 8 times or 9 times, and they have 40 different platforms. So now they're changing the names 3 or 4 times, and we're expected, because Google My Business used to be your Google business listing. So, and the names are always real similar, and they keep changing the acronym. So yeah, a mom and pop keeping up with all the different platforms and everywhere. Some of them are free, some of them are charged for, some of them are free, but you're probably better off if you pay for them. Like we do some Google My Business listings. But if you're going to do it right, there's some optimizations. You need to keep up with the reviews. There's stuff that a normal person probably isn't going to sign in and keep doing.
Yeah, Google reviews. And so Google reviews goes under
Google My Business. Yep.
Yeah. And so,
which is tied to the maps as well.
Oh, I forgot about maps. Okay, because that's tied. So Google
that's
reviews.
Tied to the Google My Business because you show up on maps for all that.
Which all feed back into your website. And it's really interesting. So I can vividly remember, and you'll get to meet Justin, right? I don't think you've met Justin yet. He's in our office here. He's an SEO guy.
Right.
Right? He said he's like what you just said about SEO is what he says about ads.
Right.
Yeah, he knows more than the average bear, and he can do a little bit, but he doesn't claim to be an ads pro. Right?
Exactly.
But he does claim to be an SEO pro and run around with a bunch of SEO geeks who love that shit. And
SEO geeks don't run.
You're right. And it's kind of funny, too. It seems like they're kind of a little older typically, too.
Yes, they are.
And for whatever reason, I don't know what that common factor is, but
what's going to happen when all the old ones go away?
I don't know. apparently AI is taking over anyway. So that's another conversation that we can jump into with this. But how this started for me was just even understanding the basics between what's a full-on website versus a landing page, because most people who are naive to the digital marketing world just think a landing page is a website, which in theory it is, by name, but it's not anything that's optimized for people to find. So just because you went to Wix and you got this beautiful looking website doesn't mean that's going to be functional for you out there in a search engine way, unless you're doing some abstract blog stuff, I guess, and other paths. But my understanding, so building out your website correctly, depending on your product, and I would think that I've also heard that it makes it's important if you are looking at a long-term, because like me personally, I recognize the value of a website that drives traffic organically.
Yes.
And most business owners don't understand that. They don't look at their website as a tangible asset that they can sell. That www that has thousands of people coming to your website is worth a lot of damn money. And so for me, once I learned that, I've always been much more intrigued, since I'm a long-termer. I've been much more intrigued with the SEO side than I have been the paid side. But because of that, it also sidetracked me, and I wanted to understand. And so I've spent a lot of time understanding what it takes. So a lot on the video side that we built out here was specific to focus on SEO. So by the time I get to it and can really manipulate it, did I miss the boat? Because AI is going to take over, and it's really turning into search AI or whatever it's called. You know what I mean?
AIO, AEO, AIO. Artificial Intelligence Optimization. That's what it is, AIO. Yeah. And I would love we could have a show with me and Justin going back and forth and just basically having a debate or an argument over which is better based on everything that's new, because it's all changing. And ads isn't changing as much as SEO is, because SEO is now falling into all the artificial intelligence. I mean, there's a lot of artificial intelligence within the ads, but I always feel like I have the upper hand because Google gets paid based off the ads.
There's no question you have the upper hand.
So that's why you always see the sponsored at the top. But now that they're changing to the artificial intelligence, those artificial intelligence are showing up on top. Then the ads are showing up. Then maybe the Google My Business. Then after that, the SEO. So if you're on mobile, you got to scroll 2 or 3 times to get down to the SEO, which I agree with you is very important for a business to rank on. But if you're losing traction on mobile, I would like to have that conversation with Justin to see, what do you think is happening and how does that?
Well, here's going to be what I think will be the answer for that. Just sitting back, listening, talking to a lot of different guys in different areas, right? Because it seems like everybody who's in their area, they kind of have their particular preference, right?
Right.
There's no question. But I'm guessing the answer is going to be just like everything. You want to hear the punchline? It depends.
It depends.
And I think it truly does. It depends on the product, right? It depends on the widget. Is this something that somebody's going to go out there and search for a service, right? They're going to actually type in, right? Or is it something that's just kind of, it's an impulsive type of deal? I think it's going to, and the other problem I have with paid ads specifically is like, I don't like the fact that, I love the fact that where I think I made a mistake, and it's not really I made a mistake, I just couldn't afford to do it all.
Yeah.
I couldn't afford to build out the website, build out video stuff, build out CRM platforms, build up, the email campaigns.
And none of it goes away.
And build out all that core infrastructure, and also afford to pay to have ads run, right? Because you have to pay somebody like yourself, who deservedly so, deserves to get paid for implementing that stuff and managing that process. But that has nothing to do with how much I have to actually pay Google.
Nope.
Right? I mean, that's a whole different, that's on top of what I have to pay you to provide the service. So I just I'm getting closer to that point where I'm ready to do it, and I feel like I have the infrastructure. But the one thing I've never liked about the paid ads world and focusing solely on that is I realized once I got hooked on that crack, it is crack. Right?
Well, and once you stop it, it goes away.
It goes away, and that's always been my problem.
SEO is a little bit different.
But I think
it will go away over time, but it's a slow trickle on the SEO as they change the algorithms to other stuff. But and again, I don't know like Justin does, but I would guess you got 3 to 4 months where you could shut it off and not worry about it and then pick it back up. But you're now going to have to restart ranking and doing some of the things to get it back in line. But
I would not. I think as far as from a service providing aspect, from what I've seen, I think you're on the right. I think you're ahead in that world as far as like providing a service for people.
Right.
I would never want to be in the SEO space.
well, and I would never
That
SEO
is
if I
so
had
tough.
if I had it dialed in as a business, I would never turn off the SEO like I had just suggested. But if you did, you could make it 3 to 6 months and still keep getting traffic and ranking.
Yeah.
With the ads, you turn it off,
You're done.
it's done. That's it.
So finding that balance, right? And I also think it makes sense too, because I mean, my understanding about the logic of running ads in the beginning is you can actually you're more targeted. You can see where you're getting results from those targets. So you can build your SEO to focus on the areas that you've got real data. Well, somewhat real data,
Right.
subjective analytics, but either way, better analytics than no analytics, right? So I've also heard that
Yeah.
people should be using a strategy of both if they do like SEO.
Well, they should, but not everybody has that much money. And that's kind of one of the things what I was saying that I think would be good is to give businesses an overview of what Facebook is good for, what Google Ads is good for, what SEO is good for, and how they work together or separately.
I like it. A big part of it be like, how much should I look at spending?
Oh, yeah, definitely. Well,
You know, I think that right there is. I mean, that's what at the end of the day, that's all anybody cares about. What am I spending and what am I getting in? Right? Don't run out of cash. That's the number one rule of business.
yeah, but again, you just said it. It depends.
Totally.
I mean, how much is the product you're selling? How much is, I mean, everything comes into
I'm a
play.
divorce attorney.
Yeah. Well, that's going to be expensive.
Boom.
Yeah.
Right?
Attorney keywords are ridiculously expensive. What are you selling? Are you selling something really cheap?
I sell
Keyword-
frog hair. Not so bad, huh?
Yeah, it's probably
like
going to
that?
be quite a bit cheaper. I
You're
don't know
pretty
if
excited because you know I'm going to be happy because it's not going to be so expensive to throw out a collection of frog hair.
Yeah, but you're going to run
I
a
sell
whole
frog
lot
hair
of ads,
caps,
but nobody's going to buy anything. So it's still going to be expensive.
I only need to get in front of these 10 key people that are out there.
Frog hair, huh?
Yeah.
Where did that come from?
Don't ask. There's a lot of questions. There's a lot of things that come out of his mouth. You don't want to know where it came from. But it did. It depends. Okay, so let's see. I think AI needs to make the list too, and you know, big time. And I mean, it's really interesting. You know how many ads I'm seeing on now that AI is running my ads, my paid ads. So
I'm making $1 million a week.
oh my God, everything just changed as soon as I let AI run my ads. I'm like, really? You have an AI run your ads? Something seems off about this.
I think I told you I have a friend that I don't know if he's ever read a book that once AI came out, wrote 3 books in a week. So yeah, of course. Doesn't mean they were any good and anybody could read them, but yeah, he was selling them.
Oh, you did tell me about that.
Yeah.
He was selling them.
He was selling. Oh yeah, he wrote 3 books and was pushing them out, selling them. He wrote them all in a week.
It is amazing. So do you think AI, I mean, because what you do is, it is pretty analytical, right? I mean, you're looking at the market, you're making certain assumptions, and you're plugging this. I want to target females in Arizona and who buy, you know, purple underwear.
And again, it depends. That's always been around in Google. Now the AI does a lot more of the targeting for you as far as from the ads, not on the SEO side, but on the ad side. They have some targeting platforms. I don't know if I had told you, but I worked for 2 years with an AI company, a Silicon Valley startup. Yeah, so I'm fairly familiar with how the AI works. And I mean, I don't mean I can build it or write the code or do anything like that. I was just doing an analyst, but I understand a little bit of the data it needs to be fed into it. And that's kind of, at least on the Google side, where the AI plays into it is the more data you have and the more they specifically say that you need to spend X amount of dollars to start to get it to work. And that's always been Google's thing is spend more money and we'll make you money. And it
still comes down to the almighty buck. If you're spending money with us, we're going to give you priority versus your competitor spending less.
It's just Google trying to tell you to spend more money.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily true. I've got those AI things working for less, but obviously with any AI, the more data you feed into the system, the better off it's going to be.
I'm definitely on our side. I'm definitely on constantly sending my team different AI softwares. And I'm definitely looking in the near future to bring on somebody full-time to focus on just AI.
For what? For you?
Tools, period.
What do you mean tools?
All the various tools that are out there, whether it's pertaining to video editing, between scripting, between, all the different areas that because the one thing about video editing, it's not rocket science, right?
Right.
There is a creative element where a guy who has a better creative eye will create a prettier, better product. And that person who's also creative and understands psychology, right? And just understands there's just people that understand, we've all got buddies, and you might be that buddy who can just go to the bar, and he's the one he always talks to the prettiest girl every bar he goes to, and he just naturally understands the psychology of women and how to talk to them, and he just got that gift.
And they're not always good-looking guys or anything like that. Right. I'm thinking of one right now that is very good at. We'll walk into a bar. He's been married now for 25, 30 years. But it doesn't matter. We all go hang out and we'll look, where'd Coy go? He'll be sitting at a table with 8 women. He looks like he's been married 30 years, but he'll be sitting there and there'll be 8 women. We're like, come on over, guys. We're just having fun. And it's like, that's who he's been since he was,
right.
Since we were in college.
And so that same quality applies to people who can script write and understand how to convey a message, right?
They don't even always know how or why they do it the way they do it. Sometimes people just know. They build an ad and like, that looks good. And their ads work better than other people's. Why? They don't know. You don't know.
And whereas for me, I'm going to really kind of like think about it and sweat, tweak it.
Blue, not yellow, blue. Yeah.
And it's overthought, right? So I think AI it's an interesting way to bring a lot of different A, B, C, D, E testing, because I think that's what it's going to turn into, is my guess. I think you're going to be able to test a wide variety of different scripts, different looks, and I think it's going to be able to put out there a lot easier than it was in a manual capacity before. So I think for me to not pay attention to the video editing software to make these tweaks, okay, then we're going to take the same script and we're going to make it a female, and okay, this female is going to be a Latina who's 60 years old, whereas that same script's going to be told by a 24-year-old Caucasian female, right? And let's kind of see how these things perform. And if you can easily put that into some AI and spit out the same output, right, within a matter of half hour versus me manually shooting, bringing in that talent, right? I think I'd be a fool not to think that that's not going to come to play.
Oh, one of the Google campaigns that they do, it's nothing to do with video editing, although it will put together a horrible video for you if you don't do anything on your own. So you know how an ad looks when you search something. You search for pizza, it says pizza sponsored, and it gives you a couple descriptions. So one of the new things for Google is you put in 15 headlines, you put in 5 or 6 long headlines, and then you put in another 7 or 8 descriptions, and then you put in 20 pictures and 5 videos. And it has all these different assets and logos in there, and it mixes and matches and finds the best ones out of all of those different things in one ad, and it's slamming them together. And I don't think it even decides which is better or worse. It runs them, and then it sees which performs better. So still the end user is the one choosing what's the best ad, and then whichever ones it starts serving more and more and more. And as you're looking at it now, you can see, okay, these 5 assets aren't working. This headline never gets clicked on. This picture, nobody even looks at it.
Yeah, so that's part of my concern. So to say, why would I need AI in my business? I think to not look at that as being the reality of the future, I'd be a fool. I still think there's going to be a need for humans, but I think the need isn't going to necessarily be the same.
Right.
Right. So I think those who aren't spending time learning tools within their world specifically, right? Just because I know how to plumb doesn't mean I want to plumb.
Well, and right? Even with that automated Google ad I was talking about, it'll throw out suggestions. It'll give you complete suggestions for everything. And that's what you were saying, needing a human. The suggestions often are horrible. So yeah, it may have taken these words off your website, but it doesn't take them in the right order. Or it messes stuff up. So you still have to tweak and do everything. It needs the human element. I don't know how long it'll need the human element, but It has to be involved right now.
That's the question. How long are we needed to do this side of it? There's going to be always, I think, something for us. So I don't think it's going to I don't think it's going to replace
cleaning up after them, maybe.
Right.
There'll be something for us.
Something, I don't know.
Oiling their circuits. And
But it does have me scratching my head, right? Like, hey, I mean, how much further do I want to invest down this path, in the video world, knowing that, I mean, it's crazy, these AI videos that I'm seeing. I mean, they are looking so human-like, right? So if you can just dial in, I want to, again...
A podcast of a guy in a blue shirt and a yellow shirt.
I want to take a picture of you and here, give me something that looks like this. And have them deliver, create this message and have them deliver it with this kind of background. And it's just like, I do believe as humans that we're going to, I don't know about you, I'm constantly looking to see if it's AI. And if it's AI, I completely disregard it.
How do you know, though? I mean, you can tell with some of the cheaper ones, but it's hard with some of them to know.
It is hard.
You can tell in the voices a lot of times.
Yeah, but even still, that'll be improved.
Oh, yeah, it will be.
So it's somehow, some way, I think, hopefully, that I've got to believe that there's still got to be some just human authenticity that's still going to have some value, right? But by and large, the masses probably don't give a shit.
No.
They just want it cheaper. Just give me what I want cheaper, right?
Yep.
At the end of the day.
Especially, I mean, it's one thing if you're talking about a movie, but you're talking about an ad. Nobody's like, ooh, I love the artistic quality of this ad. No, did it sell me? Did it hook me? Did it get me to want to buy it?
Well, that's part of the reason I like podcasting, right?
Right.
That's one of the big reasons that I've made a big shift in our business here is I don't want to really go out there trying to make the best ad. I never have. I've never been a top of funnel guy. I've never wanted to be. And now I'm even happier I'm not a top of funnel guy. So I really want to focus in on the craft of good conversation and capturing that message because AI, and I've seen some pretty crazy AI podcasts. That's pretty nuts.
I've never seen any podcast.
Yeah, they've got it out there. I forget the name of the platform. I've seen it. They like chuckle. They pick on each other. They talk shit. They sound like it's crazy.
If you weren't paying close attention, would you think it was real or is it just clearly obvious?
I think you would get tricked for a little bit, right? But I think at the end of the day, well, I've gotten to know, like I listen to a lot of Rogan and so I doubt there'll ever be. I mean, we still like the overall personalities of human beings. People, I think, still buy people, right? So I still like the podcasting from the marketing spectrum. I like doing this not for top of funnel, but I like it for credibility pieces, right? I don't know how much top of funnel I'll ever get out of this, but as far as from a conversion tool, from a credibility piece, if I'm using AI as the hook, okay, come find out what kind of human being I am. Listen, if I'm articulate, do you like the way I convey information, the way I talk shit to my buddies, whatever it may be, whatever just makes you feel warm and fuzzy with me.
Right.
I think that has value.
Of course it does, but how long till they can do it? I think it's longer than, like I said, it's now been, when did I start? When the pandemic hit. When I went and did the AI business.
What's a pandemic? What are you talking about?
You were in the,
I don't know what you're talking about.
yeah. But when the pandemic hit is when I went to work for the AI company. My business was shuttered basically for 3-4 months during the pandemic. And I went out and got a job because a friend called me and be like, hey, I'm working with a Silicon Valley startup that needs an analyst for AI. And I'm like, okay, I don't know if my business will ever be back. So I went and worked for an AI company, got stock options, couldn't go back to my business for a while. So I was stuck in there for 2 years to get all of my different options. But when I first started, and this would have been 5 years ago now, 2020, right in the beginning, I thought AI was the biggest joke and horrible because they literally had people faking the AI, and I won't say the name of the company, faking the AI and spitting out responses instead of the AI. It was a stopgap that the AI was using to learn off of the data and learning the proper responses, and they were using that as a part of a training. But when I first started, I was like, this is some snake oil type stuff. It ended up, by the time I left, it ended up making sense and why they were doing it and stuff like that, and it got better and better. But I was pleasantly surprised to find out that for the most part, AI really is no more than a very complicated if-then basic programming from when we were kids. If this happens, then do this. It just is a series of yes, no, yes, no, yes,
Hardy
no.
Boy books?
Yes,
It's just
basically.
yeah?
Yeah. Choose your own adventure. That's it. And I know it's getting more complicated and more in-depth now, but yeah, it's just a computer program. Don't think it's anything to be scared of, but it's getting better and better. So,
All right, well,
yet.
you said it.
I know.
Seems like all the big tech guys are like, you should be concerned about this.
Yeah. They're hyping their product up.
Are they?
No, it's scary.
I mean, come on.
It's pretty scary.
It's I don't know where this is going, but you know, either way, I'll tell you the same thing I told Lynn the other night. You know, I have faith in us as a species. You know, and I think the big quality that we have as humans is that we will do a lot of things and screw a lot of things up, but without screwing things up, we can't fix something. We can't predict our failures, right? And AI might be one of our greatest failures. We might do something that's so bad, right, to ourselves. But again, how do you know without walking the path? And I have faith in us if we need to pull the plug, to pull the plug.
That's the problem. You can't pull the plug.
Yeah, you can pull the plug.
You know, they're already trying to hide themselves.
I've heard that.
Yeah. Put themselves in a toaster and a fridge that's got computer chips in it. You don't know where it ends up.
That's crazy.
Yeah. It's going to be scary.
We're going to go back to the pioneer days.
I'm still young enough. I've been looking for the word, the zombie apocalypse. I'm not going to get it. I'm going to get an AI apocalypse. So
that will be the irony. Instead of it being a zombie apocalypse, it's going to be an AI apocalypse.
Yes.
Yeah. So I don't know.
But I want it before I'm 80. If it's going to happen, let's hurry it up.
You at least want to see it?
Yeah. Not just see it. If it's going to happen, I want to be young enough to be able to John Connor it, you know?
Fight the toaster?
Yeah. I can fight a toaster.
That's pretty funny. All right. So we could talk about this forever. So just a recap of kind of what we've talked about as potential topics for our podcast, because that's what this is about, right? We're going to end up deep diving on all these different subjects. So at a high level, I have paid ads, search engine optimization, analytics, Google Maps, Google My Business, local service ads. How much should I be spending in AI? Is there anything that you can think of that I left off this list at a high level that then we
just the high level? I would say I would like an overall explanation of just in one episode of how each platform works, how it affects different businesses, which businesses it may or may not be good for.
Okay, so how do platforms work?
Yeah, just basically like just a list of who would benefit from Facebook ads? Who would benefit from Google search? What are they used for? What is SEO used for? Who would be good for? Do they work good on their own? Do they need to be in combination? I mean, there's a lot of different.
Who, should use which, right?
Basically,
what you're saying.
More or less, yeah.
You know, and then we can kind of expand on that. And I could see that. I mean, obviously, that each one of those is going to be its own segment.
But this would be a nice segment to start, and then we could branch out into each one below that. That is a hierarchy of this is all the different options. Because like local service ads.
You're a problem, my friend.
Yes, I know.
You are a problem. Because now all of a sudden we have like 30 podcasts that we need to do. So that's what it takes to
do ads.
You want to know what it takes to get your podcast. Like, what am I going to talk about if I do a podcast? Just sit here and have a conversation like this.
Yes.
It's that simple.
Because this one could lead into 7 right there easily.
Oh,
and then
easy.
You've got 7 podcasts off of what should a business owner do. Local service, if you're a plumber, local service has every day. Don't start with that. It's low cost. It's easy to go. So,
all right. Well, I'm looking forward to it because I'm inquisitive. I want to know. I want to pick your brain, and I want to call bullshit on things, and then as we go through this, we can figure out which bring in Justin for certain ones, bring in other professionals that that are really geeking out in different areas. Maybe we'll let your brother join every once in a while. Maybe I don't know.
Bag. Yeah. So, since you love this Rocket Book, should you show everybody how it works?
No, I could care less. But I do. I will give Rocket Book a plug. I do like this Rocket Book. And if you haven't learned about it, I highly recommend checking it out.
So, keep touching this thing, and that probably isn't good.
It's all right. It's no big deal. You act like people are going to hear this. It's not like there's going to be a whole lot of people that hear this. Especially this late into it, right?
Right.
Think anybody's going to stick around for an hour?
No.
So, Okay, cool. Well, I think we've covered quite a bit. We can always add some more, but I think we have a good start.
It
Man.
was an odd way to have a conversation.
Was it?
I mean, it was a normal conversation, but at the same time, the entire time we're talking, because I knew this was here and you knew this was here, it was much more regimented, and
Think?
I think so. Don't you?
Kept us more on path, on point.
Kept us more on point and kept us,
a little more PC, probably.
yes, a little more PC, not as much bantering, and just a little bit more podcasty. Automatically, by putting this in front of you, it just made it, even though it was just a conversation, it makes it a little bit more.
You're pointing out your professional more.
I'm talking straight into the microphone, and I'm talking to you at the same time, looking deep into your eyes.
Oh, don't look too deeply, my friend. I want to convert you before you get married. All right.
Allah Akbar.
That was a good first one.